Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Welcome to a Tesla update for Friday. What you're seeing here is the weekly chart of Tesla. On the top here, and at the bottom over here is the M2 Global Liquidity Index, which is basically the index for the M2 money supply, the total money supply aggregate from 5 major economies: the US, China, Japan, European Union, and the Great Britain. And what you're seeing here is a very, very interesting thing. So first of all, you hear about Tesla being a cyclical stock, which is true because the majority of their business really comes from selling cars. And when it comes to selling cars, you're going to have issues with your revenue margin, top and bottom line. You're going to basically be more sensitive to the economic cycles. And the economic cycles so far thus suggests that there might be a little bit of consumer recessionary fears going on. And that is happening on the fact that you really have had global liquidity just kind of going sideways for 2 to 3 years. And when it does that, generally, it just impedes the ability for companies to grow, for the economy to grow, right? But whenever this started happening, you are basically usually forming some higher lows here on the liquidity index, while these cyclical stocks could potentially form some lower lows. Part of the reason is just because there is going to be an increasing narrative. Hey, stock hasn't done anything for a while. There's recessionary fears out there. These are cyclical stocks, and I'm not really seeing the last few quarters or any growth or anything like that. And that's exactly when the U.S. economy or the world economy already have noticed this. There are already recessionary fears, and they allow the money printer to start turning on. And when it does that, you might already have the money printer being turned on here. But before that happens, you're going to get a relative, basically a fall down on stock price here. Even when the liquidity makes another all-time high, usually that's the spot when the stock would go up and trying to hit a very important resistance level, trying to break above, and that can happen for a few months, even as you have increase in the global liquidity, right? So that's what happened last cycle here around 2019 before it broke out. That's what's happening now. Like the global liquidity is already broken out a few months ago, right? But you have a lag here. You do have a very bullish formation here over the last couple months, but you still haven't really had a chance to break back above the previous all-time high. Far from it, actually, even though global liquidity is already break out all-time high, right? Why is that? Well, there are a few things. One thing is that's kind of what happens every single cycle. There's a lag in terms of the stocks from feeling the liquidity injection, from reversing its margin, from reversing its top and bottom line. But even if you have people that are sniffing this out, they're front running the earnings here a little bit based on what they know is happening, you're still going to hit into a lot of these kind of resistance here. So you're going to have a hard time really trying to push above. Now, what kind of resistance are we hitting here? There are quite a few. So the way I would like to go do is I would like to just basically do a Gantt chart, because Tesla has, as a great Masby has shown you, has followed the Gantt chart almost very amazingly. If I do the, let's see, I'm going to drag this bottom over here to like that wick right there. If you do the Gantt square, if you do 360, and if you just change the factor to 1, which is what you're supposed to do to start with, you can see that Tesla has followed the Gantt square with great market symmetry. It basically gets rejected at the arc, pass through the arc, backtest the arc, backtest the horizontal zone, rejection at the arc over here for about a whole year, broke through the arc, came back tested during COVID, also backtested the horizontal zone over here and just went a lot higher, pushed through another arc, and now you have this arc over here and it's been hugging this arc here for about 2 or 3 years now, right? What's happening right now? Well, we broke through above and we backtested the arc, and right now we're at the angle here, right? So I don't like to use a square whenever price already kind of broken out above that. So instead of using the factor of 1, I like to use a factor of 10, see whether or not it gives me any good market symmetry. And the answer is yes, it does, right? And you can also see that it's really been respecting these arcs and these horizontal lines very, very good. And you are basically hitting a resistance level here. It looks like it wants to break about the arc here, but it's just simply gotten, rejected so far. It just hasn't had the enough to kind of push it through. Another resistance level that you're seeing, like if you look at a 2-week chart here, it really is becoming more clear. Like you just got rejected here at the arc right there, which is not entirely surprising because of, you're only really kind of back tested once, twice here, and you got rejected over here multiple times, right? So is there any other resistance level at this point here? The answer is yes. You also have the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, and 2-week Ichimoku cloud has served as resistance level for almost 2 years now. You see how it just kind of keeps getting rejected here, rejected, and we still have a hard time kind of push above the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. It doesn't matter if the global liquidity is increasing, it still has to work out its technicals. I think it will go up. There's enough power for it to go up because of cycles, because this is a cyclical stock, and because it looks like it wants to break out, but it still hasn't really been able to do that quite just yet because it is under resistance. Right? What else is it under resistance of? Well, it's also under resistance of the Bollinger Band of the 2-week chart here, right? So that's going to be a resistance level here. It hasn't really started expanding yet, and until it starts to expand, usually the stock price doesn't really go up that much higher. So there are a few things here that we're looking like, okay, so it still needs to take its time to do its thing. Well, the weekly chart looks better. Spoken about the Ichimoku here. And the weekly chart, looking at the Bollinger Band, it looks like, it's got room to kind of go up a little bit higher. So in the weekly time frame, it's no big deal, but you are really kind of trying to work out about the monthly and the 2-week time frame here. Now, on the monthly, even though we're at resistance, I cannot be bearish on this stock at all. It really looks like it wants to break out because of liquidity. And it also really looks like it wants to break out because there's a little bit more room here on the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly. I think there's a good chance that we might end up closing the month at around 280. I think it's entirely possible. And, the other reason why I think that we're going to close at around 280 is also because the Ichimoku cloud, top of the Ichimoku cloud right here is also around like 278.25. I think price wants to gravitate up towards the upper Bollinger Band and the top of the Ichimoku cloud, right? That's what it looks like it wants to do. Now, does it want to break out above both of those levels this month? I do not know, but I just think that this is a very bullish chart overall. Like, I just cannot be bearish. It broke back inside the cloud, used the Tenkan and Kijun as support, and it's trying to break above level after level, and the global liquidity is rising. And on top of all that, you are talking also about the 20-month moving average is really doing very well here, which again is a part of the Bollinger Band. But whenever you have 20-month moving average curling up, generally good things happen. 20-month moving average to me has been a very, very good indicator in terms of looking at cycles. And whenever you have it kind of downward sloping, generally it tells me that the bear cycle is not yet over. Whenever it's upward sloping, generally it tells me that, hey, maybe a bull market is starting to begin. And we've already had an upward sloping 20-month average for about 5 months now. So that tells me that because of an uprising 20, and it's also serving as support as opposed to resistance, that tells me I think a bigger move is going to come for Tesla. That really gives me good confidence that a bigger move is going to come for Tesla. I also like the fact that things just been chopping around 3 years and everybody's still talking about trading in and out of it. I think that the great Maspy is right. I think that there might be probably a big move coming. And if you keep on wanting to be cute and trade in and out of the stock, you might miss that big move. For example, if it breaks above this arc over here, and if it breaks above not just the arc here, but also breaks above the Ichimoku cloud here, the next stop after it breaks above this arc, the next stop is going to be all the way up here at the horizontal line over here, which is going to be around the 600 zone, right? That's where it's going to gravitate to if it breaks out. And can you imagine people missing the move from 300 to 600 or 680 because they want to trade in and out of the stock because that's what they're used to over the last 3 years? Or they're worried that there's going to be another downtrend because you hear all these people talking about gap fills on the weekly chart, whatever. And that's what exactly Tesla has done over the years. It rose over, but it doesn't. It rose over, but it doesn't. Like that really gets a lot of people off sides here. So if you look at the linear Fibonacci line here, I also think that 600 is a reasonable target. If it's able to break about like 300, it's able to break about the previous all-time high here, 414. I think the next level is going to be around 600, 680, somewhere around here. It's going to be 1.618 Fibonacci extension level. It just makes sense for it to go up there, especially if global liquidity increase, especially if this is a cyclical stock. That's what it means, right? So there are a lot of things to be very positive about Tesla. And that includes, well, it also reclaims support band over here, like it did over here, right? And that includes the fact that the retail sentiment is absolutely horrible right now. Like it's everybody's just been getting used to Tesla just going sideways, and the thing is going to last forever. It's not going to last forever. The monthly Bollinger Bands are already telling me that it's not going to last forever. You have a contraction here, and you might start to have a little bit of expansion here. You know, you are on the monthly here. It almost looks like it's kind of like breaking out and maybe doing a little bit of the back test of the arc. You can see this maybe a little bit more clearly here on the weekly. Even though the CAN is not really calibrated for the weekly, you can still see some pretty decent market symmetry in terms of what it's trying to do. Looks like break about this arc over here finally, right? Rejection, 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 rejection. Finally broke about the arc here, close, about the arc. And it looks like it might want to just kind of back test the arc over here. Maybe we'll see whether or not it closes about the arc this week, right? Again, it's not calibrated for the monthly, but overall, that's what retail does. They don't get bullish when they're supposed to, and they get bearish when things are actually looking pretty decent, right? And they get super bullish whenever they're not supposed to get super bullish at. So such as life, such as cycles, such as, the whole retail sentiment thing. But yeah, it's under 250, so I think I'm probably going to end up buying some shares today. And I think it's probably going to do pretty decent. If you don't use any indicators, if you just basically take out all this, just look at the market structure. It looks like a double bottom, right? Almost looks like an Adam Eve bottom over here, right? This looks like an inverted head and shoulder pattern, trying to break above the neckline here. Like, what is so bearish about this chart? It looks like the supply has been eaten over time, right? You have a deceleration of a downtrend up here, and you have an acceleration of an uptrend here, right? You have demand basically going up almost exponentially, right? I don't know whether or not you can see what I'm seeing. I'm going to see whether or not I can kind of draw it out here. I'm going to delete this thing over here. Like, I cannot be bearish whenever you have basically, this is the supply zone, and the supply zone really has been just kind of going down over time. When you have demand going up exponentially, like there's nothing really bearish about this chart. It looks like it just wants to, man, the magnet's really messing me up. It looks like it's just going exponentially, right? So there's not really any reason for me to be bearish on this chart, except that the earnings are lagging behind, which is expected. You would actually have some lag in the fundamentals, which is why I have a hard time with people falling too much on their fundamentalism. The whole idea about the, for example, NVIDIA, the worst narratives was happening around like October to December of 2022. The worst narrative of NVIDIA was happening right around here. There were so many posts and so much news media outlets saying that there's a huge amount of chip inventory and there is no chip demand at all. And the bad news continued through the early part of 2023. You keep hearing all this kind of stuff. But that's exactly when a stock bottoms. There is a lag sometimes, a lot of times actually. So if you just purely follow fundamentals, and if you don't think ahead, there are some great fundamental analysts that are looking at a trend. They think that things might bottom and they might front rent the bull run here. They do exist, but they are few and far between because the narratives, whenever things are prices at the bottom, is absolutely horrible. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.